All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. I got another watch list for you. There's going to be data tomorrow, but do you notice the market finally closed green today? And that's what I want to start with. So this is going to be your first key, but I got a pretty picture here. And if you did not know, December and what we have just gone through, this has been one of the worst set of consecutive down days to start a month since 2011. So I don't know if it felt like that or not, but it's pretty wild to see. You finally got your data today, or your day of green. Tomorrow is going to be the data. We're getting PPI in the morning. That is an hour before the bell. And then you are going to be getting consumer sentiment about 30 minutes after the bell alongside wholesale inventories. But it was a decent day. You saw the correlation play out again. Even though it kind of looks like they moved the same for most of the day, you'll notice the Dow is green by 0.5, the S&P green by 0.75, the NASDAQ was able to kill it, but the 10-year bond was down about 0.6. So you'll bring it down or bring it out a little bit and you'll see the bonds dropped, the market went up, but there is still a little bit of that gap. So where this goes from here is going to be interesting, but we got a lot to talk about. I still have a couple of plays for you, even though I did not make that many plays today. We only made one. We kept it calmer. I think I made two. One is an example too, but either way, I think tomorrow will be exciting. But for real, I hope you're focused and ready, because next week is gonna be insane. So I'll save it for when I tell you that next week, because you're gonna be like, you always say that. I know. Have you not seen this? 2022 is crazy, man. But I got all of that. Make sure you drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/the stock market. I will see you there in the morning, baby. Run it.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
But right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that pretty picture explains it. We went over a couple things here in the morning, but the one thing that is so important is simply the fact that there's a lot of weird things that haven't happened in a while. Actually, believe it or not, the VIX has sold off for the last 10 weeks intraday, no matter what the market has done 80% of the time. That's only happened 3 other times in history, but we can appreciate today's down day. It is breaking that little streak there, but now let's jump into what we are going to be getting tomorrow, and it is going to be the PPI data as well as the consumer sentiment. So we said this on stream today. This is something very important, because there's going to be two types of reactions tomorrow. One, people are going to respond to what the data is at face value. But then number two, the data becomes important because everybody, all of the investors and analysts, they're going to try to extrapolate from it and figure out, okay, what does this mean for the CPI on Tuesday? Because that is very important. Now, the thing about tomorrow, PPI producer prices, it has to do with prices. It has to do with inflation. So you know how that data is. In this case, if inflation comes down, prices come down, that will be good, but also it'll be bad if it's too high. But now if it goes too crazy, this is what I said yesterday, the jobless claims data, it came in line, really wasn't much to it, but I think too good or too bad, that is really what will spook people ahead of the CPI. So keep that one in mind. The second part is going to be the consumer sentiment. So not only is the consumer sentiment have like an index that we want to watch, but we say this every time, look out for the inflation expectations. And why that's important, because it could give you some gauge or some data set that represents consumers. So is inflation entrenched? That is going to be a big question. Over the last couple of months, we have had a big reaction on one of those dates and data sets. So that's what I want you to keep in mind. But now, as we start to extrapolate it and everyone's going to be looking for the clues for CPI, that's what they want. That's the whole point about tomorrow. It is all about the clues, but it doesn't mean that the data will actually mean anything beyond today. What I'm trying to say is that you've seen this with like the ADP report ahead of the non-farm payrolls. it says something, but it's not necessarily going to have a perfect feed through into the CPI report. So that's what will make it interesting. But again, the wider the margin and the more it moves, that will be key. But now even coming into the PPI tomorrow, the expectations are already pretty low. I'm pretty sure it is pricing in already one of the biggest drops or top 3 biggest drops this year on the PPI. So we'll see what happens. But now to give you the final breakdown of all of it tomorrow, the moves can be much, much larger than what we've seen, or maybe compare it to what we saw on like Monday and Tuesday. Those were big days, but we still might end up in the same place. Just remember what happened with the non-farms. You had a giant move. It could have been bigger. It should have been bigger, but it ended up coming to the right back where we started from, and then everything continued from there. And now why I'm saying that is because the last 2 months that we had where there was a really big drop, that's exactly how the data sets look. So I believe it was right here, August 11th. This one was a gigantic drop on the PPI, but remember, on all of these days, it is also paired up with the consumer sentiment, and we've seen, varying different results. But this day, you were going up into the highs here. You had a pop. It ended up closing down, and then it continued from there. And in that case, the inflation report beforehand was like 11%, and it dropped to 9.8, which was a big drop. But then in September 14th, I believe it's like, right here, the day after like Jackson Hole and all of that, again, a lot of wicks only to end up just slightly lower than where we were, and then you saw the continuation. So honestly, kind of looks a lot like the non-farms. And again, in September, inflation, or the PPI, dropped from 9.8 to 8.7. That's like a 1.1% drop. That is quite noticeable. So this time around, PPI is expected to come in at 7.2, and last month it came in at 8%. So hopefully that helps. We're going to see how it plays out. And again, tomorrow will have its own thing, but I would not be surprised for everybody to extrapolate, bring in the follow-up coming in the next week, because that's the main event. So I hope you're ready. But let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 3 plays that I want to go over. I really did not make that many plays today. Actually, maybe we should start with them. So right off the bat, you'll see I made a play on Activision. That was the only one, and that's what I'm going to go over here for the first play, because I have an interesting idea. But remember, I went long on it with like 50 shares the other day. Well, news came out with the FTC, so I decided to close it, and then I instantly went short all within the same time frame. Again, I just literally reversed the trade. Again, 50 shares is quite manageable, and we're going to talk about that. But besides that, I wanted to make a short play throughout the day, but I said, let's keep it a little bit smaller here. And then I thought it would be a good example to show here of how one micro moves against a big one. And, playing this weird market where the pops and drops are so random and hectic, going small is very, very effective. But believe it or not, didn't do much. I'm still riding out what we got from there. We opened up a couple of plays, but just going to ride it out and let it do what it does, because if you want to put on size here, you got to be willing to fluctuate a lot. And then I'm just like, hey, let's wait till the data tomorrow, and then we could definitely do a lot of other things. But that was the first one, or those are the only plays we made. But now coming back to Activision, I flipped it short due to the FTC news. They said they're suing Microsoft and they don't want the deal to go through. Activision CEO is like, nah, I want to assure you there's confidence we will do it, but I'm either going to cut this if it could go remotely down for a little bit, or I might even want to go back in long. Again, I like this play, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like Microsoft's going to get it, but I hope you realize this is why I want to cut it, and this is also why I want to get into it. Uncertainty is the whole profit potential with this play. That is where you make a lot of money. The fact is, there's a lot of uncertainty, and if you're willing to hold it and ride it through there, if the deal goes through, it is going to surge a lot. However, if the deal doesn't go through, there's a chance it might even drop further, even though it's already dropped a lot. So we will see, but that is what I'm holding. I went, again, I took like a $150 loss on the shares that we were holding long, and now I'm short those 50 shares at $73.49. So that is play number 1. Then play number 2, I have my old play on this. I'm either going to take a win or a loss on it. We've been talking about it. Again, this one is from I think May. It's been a pretty crazy one, but it's going to work nice into the tax strategy, and thankfully we were able to make a lot more with everything else in the futures. But they said that consumers slowed down big on big ticket discretionary items. And now they already had their sales data about a week ago, the preliminary numbers. So their earnings missed even from there, and that wasn't good. But what a lot of people are focusing on is their margins as well as consumer discretionary spending, aka people buying items that they don't really need, and how willing and how much are they spending to do that. So they warned about it, and this could be very negative for Costco because that is what had people kind of excited leading into it. They didn't show any signs of weakness, but now I want to see how this affects the rest of the retail, Walmart, Target, anything of that nature. Costco it's always been the best one. So let's see how this one plays out tomorrow, and that could be big, but still got to play on that. And then finally, play number 3, baby. I really like this one. XLU. This is the utility ETF, and remember, I was like, hey, it's right in the middle. It's a nice $10 risk to reward up or down. I'm still holding into that play, but now don't forget the reasoning. XLU, healthcare, and now even consumer staples, these are the real defensive industries, even though they have a debated history. But why I want you to notice this, Michael Wilson, remember beginning of the week, he started to flip a little. Well, he's getting more bearish. He said everything could get the smoke if we go down in this economic environment, but he says he believes in utilities, healthcare, and staples. So let's see how this one plays out. I think it will be interesting. I'm riding into it. Maybe if I want to double down, I don't think it's moved too much, but again, it's just that same $10 risk to reward. If he's right, if I think I'm right and it's going to hold up a little bit, it's about making that money when the market goes down. This thing should be able to hold up better. Doesn't mean all the time. Other than that, though, there is still the risk, considering there's still somewhat of a premium on utility stocks right now. So that is pretty much it. Those are all of the plays. Again, tomorrow is going to be wild. You know what? I'm gonna really be focusing on those bonds. I think that is going to be the main key. We're going to take the data, and hopefully that opens up the opportunity for even some day trades tomorrow, but just don't get too trapped and don't go too big until we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydrate Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember, if you could control the ego, if you could tame your own personal human rebellion beast that you have, it's going to make the money easy. It's going to make a lot of things easy. It's a work in progress. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad. You up and you down, but it sounds like progression. I know you feel me, baby. So let's go. Show some love. Make sure you don't give in to the worst of your own desires, but hone in on them. Take advantage of the opportunity and get in the right mind space for the new year, baby. You're already ready, but I love you, Chad. Drink that water. God bless all of you. And let's go. Let's have some fun tomorrow. Amen, amen, amen. Okay. Hard.